U.S. Substance Abuse Agencies by State. Chapter 1. United States Substance Abuse Agencies by State. State Substance Abuse Websites. Alabama. mh.alabama.gov/sa, Alabama Substance Abuse Services Division. Alaska. hss.state.ak.us/dbh, Alaska Department of Health and Social Services. Arizona. azdhs.gov, Arizona Department of Health Services. Arkansas. humanservices.arkansas.gov/dbhs/pages/dbhs_docs.aspx, Arkansas Department of Human Services. California. adp.ca.gov, California Department of Alcohol and Drug Programs. Colorado. colorado.gov/cs/satellite/cdhs-behavioral health/cbon/1251581077594, Colorado Department of Human Services. Connecticut. ct.gov/dmhas/site/default.asp, Connecticut Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. Delaware. dhss.delaware.gov/dsamh/index.html, Delaware Division of Substance Abuse. District of Columbia. dchealth.dc.gov/doh/site/default.asp, District of Columbia Department of Health. Florida. dcf.state.fl.us/programs/samh/help.shtml, Florida Department of Children and Families. Georgia. dbhdd.georgia.gov/portal/site/dbhdd, Georgia Department of Behavioral Health. Hawaii. hawaii.gov/health/substance-abuse/index.html, Hawaii Department of Health. Idaho. healthandwelfare.idaho.gov, Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. Illinois. dhs.state.il.us/page.aspx?item $29725, Illinois Department of Human Services. Indiana. in.gov/fss/dmha/index.htm, Indiana Division of Mental Health and Addiction. Iowa. idph.state.ia.us/bh/substance_abuse.asp, Iowa Department of Public Health. Kansas. srs.ks.gov/agency/as/pages/default.aspx, Kansas Department of Social and Rehabilitation Services. Kentucky. mhmr.ky.gov/mhsas, Kentucky Cabinet for Health and Family Services. Louisiana. new.dhh.louisiana.gov, Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals. Maine. maine.gov/dhhs/osa, Maine Office of Substance Abuse. Maryland. ada.dhmh.maryland.gov, Maryland Alcohol and Drug Abuse Administration. Massachusetts. mass.gov/page ID =EAHS2 Agency Landing &L =4 &L0 home &L1 government &L2 departments +& divisions &L3 department +of public health &SID EAHS2, Massachusetts Health and Human Services. Michigan. michigan.gov/mdch/0,16077,7-132-29487-00.html, Michigan Department of Community Health. Minnesota. dhs.state.mn.us/main/groups/disabilities/documents/pub/dhs_id_00082.hcsb, Minnesota Alcohol and Drug Abuse Administration. Mississippi. dmh.state.ms.us/substance_abuse.htm, Mississippi Department of Mental Health. Missouri. dmh.mo.gov/ada, Missouri Department of Mental Health. Montana. dphhs.mt.gov/amdd, Montana Department of Public Health. Nebraska. dhhs.ne.gov/behavioral_health, Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. Nevada. mhds.state.nv.us, Nevada Department of Mental Health. New Hampshire. dhhs.nh.gov/dcbc/index.htm, New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services. New Jersey. state.nj.us/human services/das/home, New Jersey Division of Addiction Services. New Mexico. bhc.state.nm.us, New Mexico Behavioral Health Collaborative. New York. oasis.state.ny.us, New York Office of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse. North Carolina. ncdhhs.gov/mhddsas, North Carolina Division of Mental Health. North Dakota. nd.gov/dhs/services/mental health, North Dakota Mental Health and Substance Abuse. Ohio. ada.ohio.gov/public, Ohio Department of Alcohol and Drug Addictive Services. Oklahoma. ok.gov/odmhsas, Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. Oregon. oregon.gov/oha/addiction/index.shtml, Oregon Addiction Services. Pennsylvania. portal.state.pa.us/portal/server.pt?*512&OBJID=14221 mode=2, Pennsylvania Department of Health. Rhode Island. bhdh.ri.gov/sa, Rhode Island Department of Behavioral Health. South Carolina. daotas.state.sc.us, South Carolina Department of Alcohol and Drug Abuse Services. South Dakota. dhs.sd.gov, South Dakota Department of Human Services. Tennessee. tn.gov/mental, Tennessee Department of Mental Health. Texas. dshs.state.tx.us, Texas Department of Health Services. Utah. dsamh.utah.gov, Utah Department of Human Services. Vermont. healthvermont.gov/adp/adp.aspx, Vermont Department of Health. Virginia. dbhds.virginia.gov, Virginia Department of Behavioral Health. Washington. dshs.wa.gov/dbhr, Washington Department of Social and Health Services. West Virginia. Rule no follow. wvdhr.org/bhhf/ada.asp, West Virginia Bureau for Behavioral Health. Wisconsin. dhs.wisconsin.gov/substabuse/index.htm, Wisconsin Substance Abuse Services. Wyoming. health.wyo.gov, Wyoming Department of Health. Substance Abuse Treatment Locator by State. Alabama. onthewagon.org/Alabama, Alabama Drug Rehab Centers. Alaska. onthewagon.org/Alaska, Alaska Drug Rehab Centers. Arizona. onthewagon.org/Arizona, Arizona Drug Rehab Centers. Arkansas. onthewagon.org/Arkansas, Arkansas Drug Rehab and Treatment Centers. California. onthewagon.org/California, California Drug Rehab Centers. Colorado. onthewagon.org/Colorado, Colorado Drug Rehab Centers. Connecticut. onthewagon.org/Connecticut, Connecticut Drug Rehab Facility Centers. Delaware. onthewagon.org/Delaware, Delaware Drug Rehab Centers. Florida. onthewagon.org/Florida, Florida Drug Rehab Centers. Georgia. onthewagon.org/Georgia, Georgia Drug Rehab Centers. Hawaii. onthewagon.org/Hawaii, Hawaii Drug Rehab Idaho. onthewagon.org/Idaho, Idaho Drug Rehab Centers. Illinois. onthewagon.org/Illinois, Illinois Drug Rehab Centers. Indiana. onthewagon.org/Indiana, Indiana Drug Rehab Centers. Iowa. onthewagon.org/Iowa, Iowa Drug Rehab Centers. Kansas. onthewagon.org/Kansas, Kansas Drug Rehab Centers. Kentucky. onthewagon.org/Kentucky, Kentucky Drug Rehab Centers. Louisiana. onthewagon.org/Louisiana, Louisiana Drug Rehab Centers. Maine. onthewagon.org/Maine, Maine Drug Rehab Centers. Maryland. onthewagon.org/Maryland, Maryland Drug Rehab Centers. Massachusetts. onthewagon.org/Massachusetts, Massachusetts Drug Rehab Centers. Michigan. onthewagon.org/Michigan, Michigan Drug Rehab Centers. Minnesota. onthewagon.org/Minnesota, Minnesota Drug Rehab and Alcohol Centers. Mississippi. onthewagon.org/Mississippi, Mississippi Drug Rehab Centers. Missouri. onthewagon.org/Missouri, Missouri Drug Rehab Centers. Montana. onthewagon.org/Montana, Montana Drug Rehab Centers. Nebraska. onthewagon.org/Nebraska, Nebraska Drug Rehab Centers. Nevada. onthewagon.org/Nevada, Nevada Drug Rehab Centers. New Hampshire. onthewagon.org/New-Hampshire, New Hampshire Drug Rehab and Alcohol Centers. New Jersey. onthewagon.org/New-Jersey, New Jersey Drug Rehab Centers. New Mexico. onthewagon.org/New-Mexico, New Mexico Drug Rehab Centers. New York. onthewagon.org/New-York, New York Drug Rehab Treatment Centers. North Carolina. onthewagon.org/North-Carolina, North Carolina Drug Rehab Centers. North Dakota. onthewagon.org/North-Dakota, North Dakota Drug Rehab Centers. Ohio. onthewagon.org/Ohio, Ohio Drug Rehab Centers. Oklahoma. onthewagon.org/Oklahoma, Oklahoma Drug Rehab and Alcohol Treatment Centers. Oregon. onthewagon.org/Oregon, Oregon Drug Rehab Centers. Pennsylvania. onthewagon.org/Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania Drug Rehab Centers. Rhode Island. onthewagon.org/Rhode-Island, Rhode Island Drug Rehab Centers. South Carolina. onthewagon.org/South-Carolina, South Carolina Drug Rehab Facilities. South Dakota. onthewagon.org/South-Dakota, South Dakota Drug Rehab Centers. Tennessee. onthewagon.org/Tennessee, Tennessee Drug Rehab Centers. Texas. onthewagon.org/Texas, Texas Drug Rehab Centers. Utah. onthewagon.org/Utah, Utah Drug Rehab Treatment Facilities. Vermont. onthewagon.org/Vermont, Vermont Drug Rehab Centers. Virginia. onthewagon.org/Virginia, Virginia Drug Rehab Centers. Washington. onthewagon.org/Washington, Washington Drug Rehab Centers. West Virginia. onthewagon.org/West-Virginia, West Virginia Drug Rehab Centers. Wisconsin. onthewagon.org/Wisconsin, Wisconsin Drug Rehab Centers. Wyoming. onthewagon.org/Wyoming, Wyoming Drug Rehab and Alcohol Treatment Centers. Find treatment.samhsa.gov/locator/state agencies, click a state. They probably have the most current info. List of U.S. state government substance abuse offices at usdrugrehabcenters.com/government-resources. Alabama. Substance Abuse Services Division. Department of Mental Health and Mental Retardation. 334-242-3961. mh.state.al.us/services/sa/main.html. Division of Behavioral Health. Department of Health and Social Services. 907-465-3371. Hotline 877-266-4357. hss.state.ak.us/dbh. American Samoa. Department of Human and Social Services. American Samoa Government. 684-633-2609. asg-gov.net/human%20 social%20 services.htm. Bureau for Substance Abuse Treatment and Prevention. Division of Behavioral Health. Department of Health Services. 602-381-8922. hs.state.az.us/bhs. Alcohol and Drug Abuse Prevention. Division of Behavioral Health Services. 501-686-9866. state.ar.us/dhs. Department of Alcohol and Drug Programs. 800-879-2772. adp.ca.gov. Alcohol and Drug Abuse Division. Department of Human Services. 303-866-7480. cdhs.state.co.us/ohr/atd/index.html. Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. 860-418-6856. dmhes.state.ct.us. Alcohol and Drug Services. Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health. 302-255-9399. state.de.us/dhss/dsamh/index.html. District of Columbia. Addiction Prevention and Recovery Administration. Department of Health. 202-442-9152. dchealth.dc.gov/services/administration_offices/apr/services.shtm. Substance Abuse Program Office. Department of Children and Families. 850-487-2920. dcf.state.fl.us/mentalhealth/sa. Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Addictive Diseases. 404-657-5737. state.ga.us/departments/dhr/mhmrsa/index.html. Guam. Drug and Alcohol Treatment Services. Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. 671-647-5330. 808-692-7506. hawaii.gov/health/resource/drug_abuse.html. Substance Abuse Program. Department of Health and Welfare. 208-334-5935. Hotline 800-926-2588. state.id.us/dhw/mentalhealth/index.htm. Division of Alcoholism and Subabuse. 312-814-3840. dhs.state.il.us/oasa. Division of Mental Health and Addiction. Family and Social Services Administration. 317-232-7800. in.gov/fss/serviceaddict. Division of Behavioral Health and Professional Licensure. Department of Public Health. 515-281-5 4417. idph.state.ia.us/bhpl/default.asp. Addiction and Prevention Services. Social and Rehabilitation Services. 785-291-3326. Hotline 800-586-3690. srskansas.org/hcp/aaps/index.html. Division of Substance Abuse. Department for Mental Health. 502-564-2880. mhmr.chs.ky.gov/sa. Office for Addictive Disorders. Department of Health and Hospitals. 225-342-6717. dhh.state.la.us/OTA. Office of Substance Abuse. Department of Behavioral and Development Services. 207-287-2595. mainosa.org. Alcohol and Drug Abuse Administration. Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. 410-402-8600. maryland-adaa.org. Bureau of Substance Abuse Services. 617-624-5111. Hotline 800-327-5050. state.ma.us/dph/bsas/bsas.htm. Substance Abuse and Addiction Services. Department of Community Health. 888-736-0253. michigan.gov/mdch/1,16077,487-1-4871-00.html. Micronesia. The Federated States of Micronesia. 691-320-5520. Chemical Health Division. 651-582-1832. dhs.state.mn.us/contcare/chemical health. Division of Alcohol and Drug Abuse. Department of Mental Health. 601-359-1288. dmh.state.ms.us/alcohol_and_drug_abuse_services.htm. Division of Alcohol and Drug Abuse. Missouri Department of Mental Health. 573-751-4942. dmh.mo.gov/ada. Addictive and Mental Disorders Division. Department of Public Health and Human Services. 406-444-3964. dphhs.state.mt.us. Nebraska. Office of Mental Health, Substance Abuse and Addiction Services. Department of Health and Human Services Systems. 402-479-5583. Hotline 800-648-4444. hhs.state.ne.us/beh/behindx.htm. Bureau of Alcohol and Drug Abuse. Department of Human Resources, Health Division. 775-684-4190. health2k.state.nv.us/BADA. Division of Alcohol and Drug Abuse Prevention and Recovery. Department of Health and Human Services. 800-804-0909. dhs.state.nh.us/dhs/subabuse/srvc/default.htm. Division of Addiction Services. 609-292-5760. Hotline 800-238-2333. state.nj.us/humanservices/das/index.htm. Behavioral Health Services Division. 505-827-2601. Hotline 800-362-2013. health.state.nm.us. New York State Office of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Services. 518-473-3460. oasis.state.ny.us. Community Policy Management. Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Abuse Services. 919-733-4670. Hotline 800-662-7030. dhhs.state.nc.us/mhddsas. Division of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. 701-328-8920. state.nd.us/human services/services/mental health. Department of Alcohol and Drug Addiction Services. 614-466-3445. o.os.state.oh.us. Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. 405-522-3877. odmhsas.org/subabi.hdm. Office of Mental Health and Addiction Services. 503-945-5763. dhs.state.or.us/addiction. Palau. Ministry of Health. Behavioral Health Division. 680-488-1907. Bureau of Drug and Alcohol Programs. 717-783-8200. health.state.pa.us/php/sca/default.hdm. Puerto Rico. Mental Health and Anti-Addiction Services Administration I. 787-764-3670. asmca.gobierno.pr. Behavioral Health Care. Department of Mental Health and Retardation. 401-462-4680. Hotline 800-622-7422. mhrh.state.ri.us/substance_abuse.hdm. Department of Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse Services. 803-896-5555. daodas.org. 605-773-3123. state.sd.us/dhs/ada. Bureau of Alcohol and Drug Abuse Services. 615-741-1921. Commission on Alcohol and Drug Abuse. 512-349-6600. Hotline 877-966-3784. tcata.state.tx.us. Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health. 801-538-8290. dhs.utah.gov/dsamh.hdm. Division of Alcohol and Drug Abuse Programs. 802-651-1550. state.vt.us/adap. Office of Substance Abuse Services. Department of Mental Health, Mental Retardation, and Substance Abuse Services. 804-786-3906. dmhmrsas.state.va.us. Virgin Islands. Division of Mental Health, Alcoholism, and Drug Dependency. 340-774-4888. Division of Alcohol and Substance Abuse. Department of Social and Health Services. 877-301-4557. Hotline 800-562-1240. dshs.wa.gov/dasa. Division on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse. Office of Behavioral Health Services. Department of Health and Human Resources. 304-558-2276. wvdhhr.org/bhhf/ada.asp. Bureau of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. 608-266-2717. dhfs.state.wi.us/substabuse/index.hdm. Substance Abuse Division 307-777-5697 sad.state.wy.us Chapter 2 Substance Abuse and Mental Health Agencies by State 1 Substance Abuse and Mental Health Agencies by State 1 These state agencies can provide information and give you access to low-cost, state-funded treatment centers. If corresponding by mail, preface your letter with Alcohol and Substance Abuse Agency. Alabama Division of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. Alabama Department of Mental Health. RSA Union Building. 100 North Union Street Suite 402. POB 301410. Montgomery, Alabama 36130-1410. 334-242-3218. Fax 334-242-0759. diane.bauer@mh.alabama.gov. mh.alabama.gov/sa/?sm=d. Mailing address 100 North Union Street, Montgomery, Alabama 36104-1410. Alaska Division of Behavioral Health, Mental Health Central Office. Alaska Department of Health and Social Services. 3601 C Street, Suite 878. Anchorage, Alaska 99503. 907-269-5948. Fax 907-269-3623. dhss.alaska.gov/dbh/pages/default.aspx. Arizona Arizona Healthcare Cost Containment System. 801 East Jefferson. Phoenix, Arizona 85034. 602-417-4711. Fax 602-542-1062. azahcccs.gov. Arkansas Division of Behavioral Health Services. Arkansas Department of Human Services. 305 South Palm Street, Little Rock, Arkansas 72205. humanservices.arkansas.gov/dbhs/pages/default.aspx. 501-686-9981. Fax 501-686-9182. California California Department of Healthcare Services. 1501 Capitol Avenue, MS 0000. POB 997413. Sacramento, California 95389-7413. 916-440-7400. Fax 916-440-7404. Cell 916-217-3054. dhcs.ca.gov/pages/default.aspx. Mailing address 1501 Capitol Avenue, MS 0000. Sacramento, California 95814-5005. Colorado Office of Behavioral Health. Colorado Department of Human Services. 3824 West Princeton Circle, Denver, Colorado 80236-3111. 303-866-7400. Fax 303-866-7428. colorado.gov/cs/satellite/cdhs-behavioral-health/cbon/1251578892077. Connecticut Connecticut Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. POB 341431. 410 Capitol Avenue, Hartford, Connecticut 06134. 860-418-8650. Fax 860-418-6691. ct.gov/dmhas/site/default.asp. Mailing address 410 Capitol Avenue MS number 14 Com. Hartford, Connecticut 06106-1367. Delaware. Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health. Delaware Health and Social Services, Office of the Secretary. Main Building, 1st floor. 1901 North DuPont Highway. Newcastle, Delaware 19720. 302-255-9657. Fax, 302-255-4427. dhss.delaware.gov/dhss/dsamh/index.html. Florida. Substance Abuse and Mental Health. Florida Department of Children and Families. Building 6, Room 275. 1317 Winewood Boulevard. Tallahassee, Florida 32399-0700. 850-717-4322. Fax, 850-487-2239. myflfamilies.com/service-program/substance-abuse. Georgia. Office of Addictive Diseases. Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. 2 Peachtree Street Northwest, Suite 22-273. Atlanta, Georgia 30303-3171. 404-657-2331. Fax, 404-657-2256. dbhdd.georgia.gov/addictive-diseases. Hawaii. Alcohol and Drug Abuse Division. Hawaii Department of Health. Kakuhiwa Building, Room 360. 601 Kamokila Boulevard. Kapolei, Hawaii 96707. 808-692-7510. Fax, 808-692-7521. hawaii.gov/health/substance-abuse/index.html. Idaho. Division of Behavioral Health. Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. Senaruza Building, 3rd floor. 450 West State Street. POB 83720. Boise, Idaho 83720-0036. 208-334-0642. Fax, 208-334-0667. healthandwelfare.idaho.gov/medical/substance-use-disorders/tabid/105/default.aspx. Mailing address: 450 West State Street. Senaruza Building, 3rd floor. Boise, Idaho 83702-6056. Illinois. Division of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse. Illinois Department of Human Services. 401 South Clinton Street, 2nd floor. Chicago, Illinois 60607. 312-814-2300. Fax, 312-814-3838. dhs.state.il.us/page.aspx?item =$29759. Indiana. Division of Mental Health and Addiction. Indiana Family and Social Services Administration. Indiana Government Building, Room W353. 402 West Washington Street. Indianapolis, Indiana 46204-2739. 317-232-7845. Fax, 317-233-3472. in.gov/fss/dmha/index.htm. Iowa. Division of Behavioral Health. Iowa Department of Public Health. Lucas State Office Building, 4th floor. 321 East 12th Street. Des Moines, Iowa 50319-0075. 515-281-4417. Fax, 515-281-4535. idph.state.ia.us/bh/substance_abuse.asp. Kansas Behavioral Health Services. Kansas Department for Aging and Disability Services. 503 South Kansas Avenue, Topeka, Kansas 66603. 785-296-6495. Fax 785-296-0256. kdads.ks.gov. kansasbehavioralhealthservices.org/bhs1.0. Kentucky Cabinet for Health and Family Services. 275 East Main Street 4WG. Frankfort, Kentucky 40621. 502, 782-6173. Fax 502, 564-9010. dbhdid.ky.gov. Louisiana Office of Behavioral Health. Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals. Bienville Building, 628 North 4th Street, epub 4049. Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70821-4049. 225, 342-8916. Fax 225-342-3875. new.dhh.louisiana.gov/index.cfm/subhome/10/n/328. Mailing address: 628 North 4th Street, Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70802-5342. Maine Office of Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services. Maine Department of Health and Human Services. 11 State House Station, 41 Anthony Avenue, Augusta, Maine 04333-0011. 207-287-2595. Fax 207-287-4334. maine.gov/dhhs/smhs. Maryland Behavioral Health Administration, Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. Spring Grove Hospital Center, 55 Wade Avenue, Catonsville, Maryland 21228. 410, 402-8452. Fax 410, 402-8441. bha.dhmh.maryland.gov. Massachusetts Bureau of Substance Abuse Services. Massachusetts Department of Public Health. 250 Washington Street, 3rd floor, Boston, Massachusetts 02108-4609. 617-624-5151. Fax 617-624-5185. mass.gov/dph/bsas. Michigan Bureau of Community-Based Services. Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities Administration. Michigan Department of Community Health. Lewis Cass Building, 320 South Walnut Street, Lansing, Michigan 48913. 517-373-2576. Fax 517-241-2611. michigan.gov/mdch/0, Mailing address: Lansing, Michigan 48933. Minnesota Alcohol and Drug Abuse Division. Minnesota Department of Human Services. epub 64988. St. Paul, Minnesota 55164-0988. 651-431-4928. Fax 651-431-7455. mn.gov/dhs. Mailing address: Elmer L. Anderson Human Services Building, 444 Lafayette Road North, St. Paul, Minnesota 55164-0988. Mississippi Bureau of Alcohol and Drug Abuse Services. Mississippi Department of Mental Health. 1101 Robert E. Lee Building, 239 North Lamar Street, Jackson, Mississippi 39201. 601-359-5198. Fax 601-359-6672. dmh.ms.gov/alcohol-and-drug-services. Missouri Division of Alcohol and Drug Abuse. Missouri Department of Mental Health. 1706 East Elm Street, Pub 687. Jefferson City, Missouri 65102-0687. 573-751-9499. Fax 573-751-7814. dmh.mo.gov/ada. Montana Chemical Dependency Bureau. Addictive and Mental Disorders Division. Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services. POG 202,905. Helena, Montana 59620-2905. 406-444-7157. Fax 406-444-4435. dphhs.mt.gov/amdd. Mailing address 100 North Park Avenue, Suite 300. Helena, Montana 59601. Nebraska Division of Behavioral Health. Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. POG 95026. Nebraska State Office Building, 301 Centennial Mall South, Lincoln, Nebraska 68509-5026. 402-471-855-3402. Fax 402-471-7859. Nebraska.gov. dhs.ne.gov/behavioral_health/pages/SUA_SUA-index.aspx. Express mailing address 301 Centennial Mall South, Lincoln, Nebraska 68508-2529. Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health. Nevada Department of Health and Human Services. 4150 Technology Way, Suite 300. Carson City, Nevada 89706-2027. 775-684-4200. Fax 775-684-5966. health.nv.us. New Hampshire Bureau of Drug and Alcohol Services. Division of Community-Based Care Services. New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services. Main Building, 105 Pleasant Street, 3rd floor north. Concord, New Hampshire 03301. 603-271-6110. Fax 603-271-6116. dhs.nh.gov/dcbc/bdos/index.htm. New Jersey Division of Mental Health and Addictions Services. New Jersey Department of Human Services. 222 South Warren Street, 3rd floor. POB 700. Trenton, New Jersey 08602-0700. 609-777-0711. Fax 609-292-3816. state.nj.us/humanservices/dmhas/home. Mailing address 222 South Warren Street, 3rd floor. Trenton, New Jersey 08608-2306. New Mexico Behavioral Health Services Division. New Mexico Human Services Department. 37 Plaza La Prensa. POG 2348. Santa Fe, New Mexico 87504. 476-9295. Fax, 505-476-9272. hsd.state.nm.us. Mailing address: 37 Plaza La Prensa, Santa Fe, New Mexico 87507-9724. New York: New York State Office of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Services, 1450 Western Avenue, Albany, New York 12203-3526. 518-457-2061. Fax, 518-456-5474. oasis.ny.gov/index.cfm. North Carolina Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Abuse. North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. 3007 Mail Service Center, Raleigh, North Carolina 27699-3007. 919-733-4670. Fax, 919-733-9455. ncdhhs.gov/mhddsas. North Dakota Behavioral Health Division, North Dakota Department of Human Services. Prairie Hills Plaza, 1237 West Divide Avenue Suite 1C, Bismarck, North Dakota 58501-1208. 701-328-8824. Fax, 701-328-8969. nd.gov/dhs/services/mental health. Ohio Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. 30 East Broad Street, 36th floor, Columbus, Ohio 43215-3430. 614-466-2596 or 1-877-275-6364. Fax, 614-752-9493. mha.ohio.gov. Oklahoma Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. 1200 Northeast 13th Street, POB 53277. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73152-3277. 405-522-3877. Fax, 405-522-0637. ok.gov/odmhsas/substance_abuse/index.html. Mailing address: 1200 Northeast 13th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73117-1022. Oregon OHA Behavioral Health Policy Director, Oregon Health Authority, Health Policy and Analytics. 500 Summer Street, NE. Salem, Oregon 97301-1118. 503-367-0479. Fax, 503-945-5872. Oregon.gov/OHA/AMH/pages/index.aspx. Pennsylvania Pennsylvania Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs. Health and Welfare Building, 625 Forster Street, Room 903. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania 17120. 717-214-1937. Fax, 717-787-1939. ddap.pa.gov/pages/default.aspx. Rhode Island Rhode Island Department of Behavioral Healthcare, Developmental Disabilities and Hospitals, BHDDH. 14 Harrington Road, Berry Hall No. 52. Cranston, Rhode Island 02920. 401-462-0917. Fax, 401-462-3204. bhddh.ri.gov. South Carolina South Carolina Department of Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse Services. 2414, Bull Street Suite 301. epub 8268. Columbia, South Carolina 29202. 803-896-8371. Fax, 803-896-5557. daotas.state.sc.us. Mailing address: 2414, Bull Street Suite 301. Columbia, South Carolina 29201-1906. South Dakota. South Dakota Department of Social Services. Division of Behavioral Health. NEEP Building C/0700 Governors Drive. Pierre, South Dakota 57501. 605-367-5078, 1-800-265-9684. Fax, 605-773-7076. dss.sd.gov/behavioralhealthservices/index.asp. Tennessee. Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. 6th floor, Andrew Jackson Building. 500 Dederick Street. Nashville, Tennessee 37243. 615-532-6500. Fax, 615-532-6514. tn.gov/mental/a&d/index.htm. Texas. Mental and Social Services, Behavioral Health. Texas Health and Human Services Commission. epub 149397. Mail Code 2053. Austin, Texas 78714-9347. 512-206-4500. Facsimile, 512-206-5306. dshs.state.tx.us. hhs.texas.gov. Mailing address: 909 West 45th Street. Austin, Texas 78751-2803. Utah. Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health. Utah Department of Human Services. 195 North 1950 West. Salt Lake City, Utah 84116. 801-538-4298. Fax, 801-538-9892. dsamh.utah.gov. Vermont. Alcohol and Drug Abuse Programs Division. Department of Health. Vermont Agency of Human Services. 108 Cherry Street. epub 70. Burlington, Vermont 05402-0070. 802-951-1258. Fax, 802-951-1275. healthvermont.gov/atp/atp.aspx. Virginia. Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. 1220 Bank Street 13th floor. epub 1797. Richmond, Virginia 23219-1797. 804-786-3921. Fax, 804-371-6638. dbhds.virginia.gov. Washington. Division of Behavioral Health and Recovery. Aging and Disability Service Administration. Washington Department of Social and Health Services. epub 45330. Olympia, Washington 98504-5330. 360-725-3700. Fax, 360-725-2280. dshs.wa.gov/dasa. Mailing address: Blake Office Park West. 4500 10th Avenue Southeast. Lacey, Washington 98503. West Virginia. Bureau for Behavioral Health and Health Facilities. West Virginia Department of Health and Human Services. 350 Capitol Street, Room 350. Charleston, West Virginia 25301-3702. 304-356-4798. Fax 304-558-1008. dhr.wv.gov/bhf/sections/programs partnerships/alcoholism and drug abuse/pages/default.aspx. Wisconsin Bureau of Prevention, Treatment and Recovery. Division of Care and Treatment Services. Wisconsin Department of Health Services. 1 West Wilson Street, Room 850. Madison, Wisconsin 53703. 608-266-1351. Fax 608-266-2579. Wisconsin.gov. dhs.wisconsin.gov/dcts/index.htm. Wyoming Behavioral Health Division. Wyoming Department of Health. 6101 Yellowstone Road, Suite 220. Cheyenne, Wyoming 82002. 307-777-6494. Fax 307-777-5849. health.wyo.gov/behavioralhealth/MHSA. District of Columbia. District of Columbia Department of Behavioral Health. 64 New York Avenue NE 3rd floor. Washington, D.C. 20002. 202-671-2200. Fax 202-673-2878. dbh.dc.gov. Puerto Rico Administración de Servicios de Salud Mental y contra la Adicción, ASMCA. PO Box 607087, Bayamón, Puerto Rico 00960-7087. 787-764-3670. asmca.gobierno.pr. Mailing address. Highway number 2, kilometer 8.2. Prior MEPSA Center, Bo. Juan Domingo. Bayamón, Puerto Rico 00958. United States Virgin Islands. Virgin Islands Department of Health. Division of Mental Health, Alcoholism, and Drug Dependency Services. 3500 Estate, Richmond, Charles Harwood Complex. Christiansted, Virgin Islands 00820. 340-718-1311, extension 3755. Fax 340-712-6227. doh.vi.gov/program/mental-health/index.html. Red Lake Band of the Chippewa Indians. Senior Chairman, Tribal Council. Red Lake Band of the Chippewa Indians. POB 574. Red Lake, Minnesota 56671. 218-679-3341. Fax 218-679-3378. redlakenation.org. Mailing address. Highway number 1 East. Tribal Government Center. Red Lake, Minnesota 56671. American Samoa. Department of Human and Social Services. P.O. Box 997534, Pago Pago, American Samoa 96799. 684-633-7506. Fax 684-633-7449. dhss.as. Mailing address. 997534 Uchule Street, Suite 302. Pago Pago, American Samoa 96799. Federated States of Micronesia. Department of Health and Social Affairs. Federated States of Micronesia. POG PS 70 Palakir. Pohnpei FM 96941. 691-320-2619. Fax 691-320-5263. fsmhealth.fm. Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation. Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. 1. Lower Navy Hill Road. epub 500,409 ck. Navy Hill, Saipan, Northern Mariana Islands 96950-0409. 670-236-8201. Fax, 670-236-8756. chcc.gov.mp. Guam. Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. Government of Guam. 790 Governor Carlos G. Camacho Road. Tamuning, Guam 96913. 671-647-5330. Fax, 671-647-6948. gbhwc.guam.gov. Republic of the Marshall Islands. Secretary of Health. Republic of the Marshall Islands Ministry of Health. Capitol Building, 2nd floor. Amatacabua Avenue. epub 16. Majuro, Marshall Islands 96960. 011-692-625-3399. Fax, 011-692-625-4543. rmimof.com. Republic of Palau. Bureau of Public Health. Ministry of Health. epub 6027. Koror, Palau 96940. 680-488-4573. Fax, 680-488-4800. palauhealth.org. Chapter 3. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Agencies by State 2. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Agencies by State 2. Alabama Substance Abuse Services Division. Alamaba Department of Mental Health. RSA Union Building, 100 North Union Street. Montgomery, Alabama 36130-3417. 800-367-0955, statewide. 334-242-3107. mh.alabama.gov. Alabama. Alaska Substance Abuse Agency. Alaska Department of Health and Social Services. 3601 C Street, Suite 878. Anchorage, Alaska 99503. 907-269-3410. hss.state.ak.us. Arizona Substance Abuse Agency. Arizona Department of Health Services. 150 North 18th Avenue No. 200. Phoenix, Arizona 85007. 602-364-4558. azdhs.gov. Arkansas Substance Abuse Agency. Arkansas Department of Human Services. 4313 West Markham Street. Little Rock, Arkansas 72205-4096. 501-686-9164. Helpline, 501-686-9866. humanservices.arkansas.gov. California Substance Abuse Agency. California Department of Alcohol and Drug Programs. 1700 K Street. Sacramento, California 95814-4037. 800-879-2772. dhcs.ca.gov. California. Colorado Alcohol and Drug Abuse Division. Colorado Department of Human Services. 4055 South Lowell Boulevard. Denver, Colorado 80236-3120. 303-866-7480. Colorado.gov. Connecticut Substance Abuse Agency. Connecticut Department of Mental Health and Addictions Services. 410 Capitol Avenue, PO Box 341431, Hartford, Connecticut 06134. 860-418-7000. 800-446-7348. ct.gov. Delaware Substance Abuse Agency. Delaware Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health. 1901 North DuPont Highway Main Building. Newcastle, Delaware 19720. 302-255-9399. dhss.delaware.gov. Washington, D.C. Substance Abuse Agency. Washington, D.C. Department of Health. 825 North Capitol Street, NE. Washington, D.C. 20002. 202-442-9152. 888-793-4357, 24-hour hotline. doh.dc.gov. Florida Substance Abuse Program Office. Florida Department of Children and Families. 1317 Winewood Boulevard. Building 6, Room 334. Tallahassee, Florida 32399-0700. 850-487-2920. dcf.state.fl.us. Georgia Substance Abuse Agency. Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. 2 Peachtree Street Northwest, Suite 22-486. Atlanta, Georgia 30303. 1-800-715-4225. dbhdd.georgia.gov. Hawaii Alcohol and Drug Abuse Division. Hawaii Department of Health. Kakuhihewa Building. 601 Kamokila Boulevard. RM 360. Kapolei, Hawaii 96707. 808-692-7506. health.hawaii.gov. Idaho Bureau of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. 450 West State Street, 5th floor. Boise, Idaho 83720-0036. 208-334-4944. heldhandwelfare.idaho. Illinois Substance Abuse Agency. Illinois Department of Human Services. 100 South Grand Avenue East. Springfield, Illinois 62762. 217-557-9437. dhs.state.il.us. Indiana Substance Abuse Agency. Indiana Family and Social Services Administration. 402 West Washington Street. Indianapolis, Indiana 46207-7083. 317-232-7800. in.gov. Iowa Substance Abuse Agency. Iowa Mental Health and Disability Services. 1305 East Walnut Street. Des Moines, Iowa 50319-0114. 515-242-5994. dhs.state.ia.us. Kansas Substance Abuse Agency. Kansas Behavioral Health Services. New England Building 503 South Kansas Avenue. Topeka, Kansas 66603-3404. 785-296-3471. kansasbehavioralhealthservices.org. Kentucky Substance Abuse Agency. Kentucky Division of Behavioral Health. 275 East Main Street, 4WF. Frankfort, Kentucky 40621. 502-564-4456. dbhdid.ky.gov. Louisiana Substance Abuse Agency. Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals. Bienville Building. 628 North 4th Street. Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70821-2790. 1-877-664-2248. 225-342-6717. dhh.louisiana.gov. Maine Substance Abuse Agency. Maine Office of Substance Abuse. AMHI. Complex, Marquardt, 3rd floor. State House Station, number 11. Augusta, Maine 04333-0011. 207-287-2595, 800-499-0027, statewide. Maine.gov. Maryland Substance Abuse Agency. Maryland Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. 55 Wade Avenue, Catonsville, Maryland 21228. 410-402-8600. bha.dhmh.maryland.gov. Massachusetts Substance Abuse Agency. Massachusetts Health and Human Services. 250 Washington Street, 3rd floor. Boston, Massachusetts 02108-4619. 617-624-5111. Helpline, 800-327-5050. Mass.gov. helpline-online.com. Michigan Bureau of Substance Abuse and Addiction Services. Michigan Department of Community Health. 320 South Walnut Street, Lansing, Michigan 48913. 517-373-4700. Michigan.gov. Minnesota Substance Abuse Agency. Minnesota Department of Human Services. St. Paul, Minnesota 55164-0977. 651-431-2000. mn.gov/dhs. Mississippi Substance Abuse Agency. Mississippi Department of Mental Health. Robert E. Lee Office Building, 11th FL. 239 North Lamar Street, Jackson, Mississippi 39201. 601-359-1288. 877-210-8513. dmh.ms.gov. Missouri Substance Abuse Agency. Missouri Department of Mental Health. 1706 East Elm Street, Jefferson City, Missouri 65101. 573-751-4942. dmh.mo.gov. Montana Substance Abuse Agency. Montana Addictive and Mental Disorders Division. 555 Fuller, Helena, Montana 59620-2905. 406-444-3964. dphhs.mt.gov. Nebraska Substance Abuse Agency. Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. 301 Centennial Mall South, Lincoln, Nebraska 68509. 402-471-3121. 402-471-7818. dhhs.ne.gov. Nevada Substance Abuse Agency. Nevada Department of Health and Human Services. 4126 Technology Way, 2nd floor, Carson City, Nevada 89706. 775-684-4190. Substance Abuse Hotline, 775-825-4357. Crisis Hotline, 800-992-5757. mhds.nv.gov. New Hampshire Substance Abuse Agency. New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services. 105 Pleasant Street, Concord, New Hampshire 03301. 603-271-6110. 603-271-5000. Toll free, 800-852-3345, x5000, statewide. Emergency Mental Health Hotline, 800-852-3388, statewide. dhhs.nh.gov/dcbc/bdos/index.htm. New Jersey Substance Abuse Agency. New Jersey Department of Human Services. 120 South Stockton Street, 3rd floor, Trenton, New Jersey 08625-0362. 609-292-5760. State.nj.us. New Mexico Substance Abuse Agency. New Mexico Department of Health. 37 Plaza La Prensa, Santa Fe, New Mexico 87504. 505-827-2601. 505-820-6333. 888-920-6333. nmhealth.org. New York Substance Abuse Agency. New York State Office of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Services. 1450 Western Avenue, Albany, New York 12203-3526. 518-473-3460. 800-522-5353, statewide. oasis.ny.gov. North Carolina Substance Abuse Agency. North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. 3001 Mail Service Center, Raleigh, North Carolina 27699-3001. 919-733-7011. ncdhhs.gov/mhddsas. North Dakota Substance Abuse Agency. North Dakota Department of Human Services. 1237 West Divide Avenue, Suite 1C. Bismarck, North Dakota 58501-1208. 701-328-8920. 800-755-2719, statewide. nd.gov. Ohio Substance Abuse Agency. Mental Health and Addiction Services. The James A. Rhodes State Office Tower, 30 East Broad Street, 8th floor. Columbus, Ohio 43215-3430. 614-466-2596. 1-877-275-6364. mha.ohio.gov. Oklahoma Substance Abuse Agency. Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. 1200 NE 13th 2nd floor. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73152-3277. 405-522-3908. 800-522-9054. OK.gov. Oregon Substance Abuse Agency. Oregon Addictions and Mental Health Services. 500 Summer Street Northeast E86. Salem, Oregon 97301. 503-945-5763. Oregon.gov. Pennsylvania Substance Abuse Agency. Pennsylvania Department of Health Home. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania 17105-2675. 717-787-6443. 877-724-3258. health.pa.gov. Rhode Island Substance Abuse Agency. Rhode Island Department of Behavioral Healthcare, Developmental Disabilities, and Hospitals. 14 Harrington Road, Cranston, Rhode Island 02920. 401-462-2339. Helpline 1-866-ALC-DRUG. bhddh.ri.gov. South Carolina Substance Abuse Agency. South Carolina Department of Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse Services. 101 Executive Center Drive, Suite 215. Columbia, South Carolina 29210. 803-896-5555. daotas.state.sc.us. South Dakota Substance Abuse Agency. Division of Behavioral Health. Department of Social Services. 811 E 10th Department 9. Sioux Falls, South Dakota 57103. 605-367-5236. dss.sd.gov/behavioral health. Tennessee Substance Abuse Agency. Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. Andrew Jackson Building, 500 Dederick Street, Nashville, Tennessee 37243. 615-532-6500. 615-532-7803. tn.gov/mental/a&d. Texas Substance Abuse Agency. Texas Department of State Health Services. Austin, Texas 78714-9347. 512-206-5000. Hotline 877-966-3784. dshs.state.tx.us/mhsa. Utah Substance Abuse Agency. Utah Department of Human Services. 120 North 200 West, Room 209. Salt Lake City, Utah 84103. 801-538-3939. dsamh.utah.gov. Vermont Substance Abuse Agency. Vermont Department of Mental Health. Redstone Building. 26 Terrace Street. Montpelier, Vermont 05609-1101. 802-828-3824. mentalhealth.vermont.gov. Virginia Substance Abuse Agency. Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. 1220 Bank Street. Richmond, Virginia 23218-1797. 804-786-3921. dbhds.virginia.gov. Washington Substance Abuse Agency. Washington Department of Social and Health Services. 612 Woodland SQ Loop Southeast Building C. Olympia, Washington 98504-5330. 877-301-4557. dshs.wa.gov. West Virginia Substance Abuse Agency. West Virginia Bureau for Behavioral Services and Health Facilities. Division on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse. 350 Capitol Street, Room 350. Charleston, West Virginia 25301-3702. 304-558-0627. wvdhhr.org. Wisconsin Substance Abuse Agency. Wisconsin Department of Health Services. 1 West Wilson Street. Madison, Wisconsin 53707-7851. 608-266-2717. dhs.wisconsin.gov/substabuse. Wyoming Substance Abuse Agency. Wyoming Department of Health. 6101 Yellowstone Road, Suite 220. Cheyenne, Wyoming 82002. 800-535-4006. 307-777-6494. health.wyo.gov. Guam Substance Abuse Agency. Guam Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse, Guam. 790 Governor Carlos Camacho Road. Tamuning, Guam 96911. 671-475-5440. 671-647-5438. gbhwc.guam.gov. Puerto Rico Substance Abuse Agency. Puerto Rico Mental Health and Anti-Addiction Services Administration. CAR. Number 2 KM 8.2. VO. Juan Sanchez. Antigua Hospital MEPSA Center. Bayamon, PR. 787-763-7575. 1-800-981-0023. asmca.gobierno.pr. Virgin Islands Substance Abuse Agency. Department of Mental Health. St. Croix Office. Charles Harwood Complex. 3500 EST. Richmond. Christiansted, Virgin Islands 00820. 340-718-1311. St. Thomas/St. John Office. 1303 Hospital Ground, Suite 10. Charlotte Amalie. St. Thomas, Virgin Islands 00802. 340-774-9000. health6.org.